motion to come out of our recess and join the public.
Let's go.
And we've
Second.
got
We'll make a motion to, or not make a motion, we'll just call our meeting to order. Yes. And we have a representative online. Tim is joining us via Teams today. So.
Okay, so we have a joint meeting with the advisory board to discuss the FY 2026 budget, which was approved and override passed. So just here to go over this. Jason, you jump in?
So we originally, in case, we needed alternative plans, but as the chair said, the override passed yesterday. So, but I still think it's important just to kind of go through, because Groton didn't pass it, there are still some choices and options that are gonna take place. So just to kind of go through what could or may happen. So first we have, based on the override, we now have a balanced budget. So a lot of what we're gonna do is kind of wait and see what happens. Our budget is settled. I just noted, I put this just brief summary together. Just for your information, the Chapter 70 increase per student was increased to $150 per student by the legislature, both House and Senate, is my understanding. So that's increased the amount of Chapter 70 funds that we believe the school district will receive. Their initial proposal was based on the governor's budget, which had $75 per student. So that's going to offset our increase by a little over 38,000, and it will offset the Groton increase by almost 129,000. The town of Groton, because their override request failed at the ballot, town of Groton is now considering going back to the ballot to ask for another override. They could modify that number down based on the increase in Chapter 70 money. So
What were they asking for before?
it was
The
about,
original amount?
yeah, it was like 655 or something like that. Maybe. Yeah. I can do the quick math if you want. But their reduced amount is here, and it's 544,255. Let me see, hold on a second, I'm sorry. So 673,250, it looks like, was their original ask. So even with that reduced amount, because of the Chapter 70 increase, if that were to pass, that would result in a fully funded level service school district budget. And the Groton town manager has recommended to the select board formally that he recommends going for another override request in that amount. He's proposed June 28th as the date for the override. And the Groton Select Board and the school committee, Groton Dunsborough School Committee, are meeting on Friday to go over all of this. So just to go through what our options are for the Groton override doesn't pass for a second time. One, we could modify the budget at a future special town meeting to reallocate the available funds we have, which is about $200,000. So if we wanted to, that's an option. If we do nothing, I've learned today that there's a state law that requires the Board of Assessors to essentially reduce our school assessment as before they set tax rate, if our school assessment is reduced after annual town meeting. So if we do nothing, when the tax rate is set, it will be based on the lower assessment number anyway. So we are not required to really do anything. If we do that, then we will only raise up to what we need to fund the schools, which will give us about $200,000 in capacity for 27.
I don't understand any of that, but I'm just gonna say, okay.
No, don't do that. I want everyone to understand.
It sounded to me like the Board of Assessors has to do something.
Yeah,
And then we're still gonna assess the overage that isn't
Well,
technically.
it's available for next year.
Yeah.
it would be available in 27.
Yes.
Oh, we
So-
wouldn't raise the funds this year, we could
Correct.
delay it for
Correct.
next year.
Correct,
If we do nothing, if we choose not to reallocate or the
correct.
next option,
Yes,
or
that's right.
provide.
So if we do
Yes.
nothing, we only raise up
Right.
to,
Figured out where I'm going.
if we do nothing and we only raise up to, the amount required to match Groton, what they can afford under their levy, we do nothing. We will carry an additional $200,000 in tax levy capacity in FY '27.
And does it have to go to the school next year?
No,
No,
It's an override.
So it's not like it's automatic for the school,
No.
it's
No.
available at
it's,
our
it's,
discretion.
that's
For the
correct.
town.
That's correct. And that's,
window.
It's a 5-year window.
No, I mean,
No.
it's like us, like, it's sort of what one of your comments was, if we do this now, Dunstall's always been pretty resourceful for longer term in the event that Groton's didn't pass. This is sort of, you have that capacity within the levy to,
So next year, next year, we have the $200,000 capacity plus drop 2.5.
Mhm.
So we have the ability to increase 2.5 plus 200,000 before going to override.
which isn't a bad thing.
That's right.
Just on practice, and
Correct.
we sort of, so people sort of sorted out the meeting that you're probably asking for an override potentially again next year. We all kind of shrugged our shoulders and said that's very likely.
Possible, yeah.
If it fails, and then, to me, it's like, I obviously would like to see us not do that next year now, but
Right.
you never know. But historically, we haven't had to do that.
Yeah,
So just for we can go up 2.5 and the extra 200, we don't have to assess it necessarily. But it'll still be for next year.
that's correct.
I mean.
So we
will need it.
Yeah, so we've increased our tax levy by $480,841. We can raise up to any degree within that 480. So if we need the 280, if we need 3,
But if you don't need that much, then they reduce it up, take it off your tax bill.
yes.
Right, but the levy's still there.
Yeah, levy's
Yes.
still there.
Yeah.
So the last option that is listed here is gifting, making a gift to the school district. So,
Can we just say no to that now?
well, last year, Town of Groton gave a gift in the amount of, I think it was $619,000 to the
Mhm.
schools. They did so because the school district based their assessments on what the town of Dunstable could afford. And Groton, because of that, could afford more than us. And so they had $619,000 of capacity, which they decided to do, to provide a one-time gift to the school district
Without an override.
without an override.
We would be doing it with an override. I just
Yep.
think it sounds awful.
Yeah, no, I'm just, these are options. I'm not advocating for it. I want to make sure everyone understands the possibilities of what could happen and where the decision points lie
Basically, they had 619,000 in their levy
within their levy
that they
capacity.
decided to use.
Yes.
Did that take town meeting approval or anything? Or
So
just like-
So last year, how we did, remember, we had a special town meeting and a special election before annual town meeting on the budget. So they knew at their annual town meeting that they were gonna have this capacity. So how they did it was they included the budget and a separate article for the gift on their town meeting warrant. So yes, it was separately voted for at town meeting. It was discussed, debated, and approved at town meeting. Yeah. So, that's an option. I talked to council about this. We also had a meeting this morning with the school district in Town of Groton and discussed some of these options. After my discussion with council, based on kind of how that line item, the the school district's operating line item, how it's been used, how we've discussed it, and how we've presented it. And this law that requires the assessors to lower the assessment if it's not, to me, I think we should, I don't know that it's, I think we probably could make a decision at the board level to gift it. I really feel like we should go to town meeting to get approval for it. We never contemplated this. It was never discussed. It was never presented at all to anybody. It would be a brand new kind of concept that we would consider. To me, I think it should be presented at town meeting for consideration.
I agree with you. I think you're right. In an override situation, it doesn't.
It's different.
It is a different.
And an override
situation.
for schools.
Yeah.
Where if we didn't provide the gift, additional cutting would be happening to
Mhm.
schools.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, we
I
asked
understand.
We
for
asked,
that
and
money.
we're providing what
we
they've
asked-
asked for
Well, I
from
mean,
us.
let's be
Yeah.
clear, though, like in this situation, it's really
Yeah.
Groton that decides. I mean, if they pass the override,
Mhm.
we would be cutting municipal to meet that need.
Oh,
And we
and we
not-
didn't,
we
if
did
the
not-
roles were reversed. you
Yeah,
mean.
so that's what I mean.
Well, the roles kind of were reversed last year.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
like-
Many times,
Yeah.
the role has been reversed. Yeah.
And just to bake out this discussion, like, they did 619 last
I
year.
think so.
So if we did like our,
2/3, 1/3.
Being the one,
if we did our percentage of 620K, let's say, that's probably about
about 30, so, yeah.
about $122,000 or so. That would be a gift, if you will.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, but I also, I don't know.
Right. We didn't ask for the override to gift the money to, if we had the money to spare, then we wouldn't have asked for an override.
Yeah,
You
so
don't
that's-
know.
But we did
But it's
ask for
for-
the money for schools, and
Right.
schools need the money.
Right.
I
No,
feel-
yeah, I
Yeah,
get.
it's not like we're not gifting Groton,
We're not
a new
buying them a
T-box
fire
at the,
truck. Right, yeah.
we're not buying a fire truck, we're gifting it to go to schools.
Understood.
We're gonna give the money to the school district.
Say it again.
We're gonna give it to the school district.
Correct.
Well, that, it's an option.
Yeah, Matt, why are you apprehensive about that?
Because we just asked for the town to increase the taxes a certain amount to meet the assessments and meet the need. And now we're gonna gift the amount, and then we're gonna be asking for another override next year. Because Groton is able to bring up that more money than we can afford each year.
But if-
I don't want
Still
this,
one time.
yeah, I don't want this to come across as advocating one way or the other, because it's not.
No, we're just having a
Yeah,
discussion.
we're just, right.
Yeah.
So what happened this year, part of why we had a hard time matching what Groton could afford was because Groton gave the $619,000 gift for this year. And so when they were formulating the assessments for FY '26, they had $619,000 head start.
Negative equity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, for
So
the-
because-
for the services, they were.
Yes.
Negative equity.
Because
But we'd
that
be
was
pushing
not
back
baked,
onto them.
that wasn't baked in on the assessment. So it was like a one-time, like you said, a one-time gift.
Mhm.
Wasn't included in the calculation for the assessment.
Right.
So that was part of our kind of struggle with matching them this year. Not the only part, but a part of it. So, so my point being, if we spent the money this year as a one-time, it would be like a one-time use of anything, for any amount. And next year, it would not be baked into the assessment. It would be calculated, and it would be as though, we will have that money as basically untapped
Right.
money for funding the assessment next year. Anyway, it's just an option, and it's not like we need to decide now, because we don't even know what's gonna happen with the town of Groton at this point. But it's something to think about.
We won't know until June
Mhm.
30th.
Exactly.
Do they even want us to do
It's
that?
not a bad,
Because it'll increase the budget next year. Small.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you were short money, we loaned you $20, now you're short money, I'll loan you $20,
or.
Kinda.
Or 5.
That's about right.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
yeah.
But I'm
Or
gonna,
7.5. you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
I was gonna say, you don't do that and then, hey, like, ask one town to pay, to override to meet that need.
But we had the override for schools.
And town.
But I
Right,
think,
but I
but I
mean, we,
think, I personally think in the end, our overrides are really for the town.
but the, right,
Because
but
we don't
the,
really have a choice
that-
on the school.
that 200,000 is available to us because the school assessment would go down if Groton doesn't pass the override. So the amount of money we requested from the townspeople for that 200,000 was for schools.
I think it might come back and bite you next year.
Yeah, I just,
I think it'll bite Groton, right? Because we're, like you said, we'd be, like they did this year, that kind of made it harder for us to keep up with their assessment. If we did the same thing, it would push harder on them next year, no? That'd be limit available to us.
Yeah, I think Harold's probably talking about just like public perception and opinion. You're talking about financial. I think, yes, financially, we would be in a better, we're gonna be, if financially, if Groton doesn't pass the override, we will be in a stronger position next year. That is not, that's not what I hope happens, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not at all what I'm saying.
Just the reality.
I don't want the
This is
schools
what
to have to cut
happens.
anymore. I don't think that's good for anybody.
Mhm.
But from a financial, if you're looking at just the numbers, that's gonna put us in a stronger financial position.
also, their money was for one-time only expenses.
Capital, yeah.
It was not for anything operational.
Mhm.
Like it didn't
Yeah,
stop us
that's
from
what
cutting
Marcus said,
teachers
yeah.
or anything like that.
Well,
It
the
was
school
a-
can reallocate the funding, you know, from,
What
so
they
it
were
was
gonna
gonna spend on capital, now they can shift to operating, to be able to run their operating differently, you know, because now that they don't have this expensive capital, kind of move it around a little bit. Yeah, the same thing they would do with ours, right, if we were to do that, in my mind.
I think the spirit of it is fantastic, and I appreciate the conversation. I think I would echo what Jason said, I would rather have the entirety of the town who come to town meeting participate in the dialogue. Not that we aren't good representatives of everyone, but I think I'd want to have the whole town sort of bake
Would
this
it
one
have
out.
to go to ballot or just vote at town hall?
Just
Town meeting?
vote at town meeting. Yeah.
That's not bad, I mean, that's the easier, less expensive version of it, right?
Yeah.
Because again, the concept of it is right, like they kind of Band-Aided us last year. We'd be trying, I mean, if it's 125K, 126K, it's
I see you, Joan.
half an administrator at the school, but I mean, it's the spirit of it, and we are a regional school system. We certainly leveraged a lot of parents evoking their emotions to come out and vote with how they felt about the school district. And it is one of the most important aspects of the community, not the only aspect, but an important aspect of the community, so.
Joan, do you have a question?
As I understand it, you know, Groton, they did not pass their override last year, so because of the way things were handled, and I really don't understand why they were done that way. I would have assumed that, you know, that Groton would have just given the school as much as they could, just like they're doing this year. They would have given the school district what they could, and we would have been, you know, we would have been plucked out of the law trying to keep up. But the fact is that the money, you know, they had, without an override, you know, they had a few extra bucks to throw at the situation. You know, we had to beg, borrow, and steal to get people to, you know, approve an override. And now you're talking about, you know, giving it away. I don't think that's gonna go over very good.
It was done that way last year because we talked about the significant impacts that would happen to Dunstable local government if we had to match what Groton could afford. And so this, we sat around the table with everybody there, and they looked at me and said, what can Dunstable afford under their levy? And I gave them the number, and the school district said, okay, well, we tried to get an override at Field, we're gonna have to meet that number. And that's why they did that. And based on what we could afford, Groton had $620,000 of excess levy capacity that they decided to gift. That they could have very well said, no, we're not doing that. We can afford that assessment, good luck Dunstable, and matching it, and we would have been in a lot of trouble.
Well, and will be, if we, if you guys think you're gonna get another override next year, you're in agreement. So, we'll be in that same position next year, trying to come up with, money that, we gave away.
Don't disagree. I mean, I think it's just,
There's some merit to it.
there's very
Love
valuable.
the idea, but, sorry, we can't afford it. Simple as that,
The only question I was thinking, what was the $480,000, or why do we have $200,000 available budget if we're talking about it like that? If
Well, we do
Groton
right
fails?
now
No,
because
I'm
they
saying
failed.
if Groton fails, why do we have $200,000
Yeah,
available
Yes.
from the schools?
It's not just for schools, it's for,
It was
for the
just-
town too.
The only reason why we'd have $200,000 extra would be if the school assessment went down. So it's not a police officer, being dispatched or something on those lines. It is, the only reason why we have that extra
But the
capacity is
reason
school.
why people voted for the override was so that the town wouldn't be impacted if we had to, take it in the neck with the school budget.
School system.
So,
And in prior years as well, we have cut the municipal to meet the need of the school without an override. And I respect everyone's thoughts and I'm not necessarily advocating either way right now. I guess I am. But, I just think it's, I would not go before the voters and tell them and advertise this idea.
Mhm.
That's all.
That's fair.
Lacey, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I'm very sorry, I have an executive session at 7, so I wish I could stay for the whole meeting, but if anybody has any specific questions from the schools, I'm happy to answer anything now before I file. I have nobody asked me, but I have no opinion about this at this time. I feel like it's also one of those things that, you can sit there and debate the merits of it, and I think everybody probably is in agreement about the sentiment of it being nice, but maybe that, there's a lot of reasons why it wouldn't be a wise idea or course of action, but it's also something that currently doesn't need to be contemplated, because I think whatever happens in Groton is gonna maybe make that irrelevant or unnecessary anyway, or else maybe not, but I guess it's a month down the road, so.
No, that's fair, thank you.
Are you kind of leaning towards this proposal to have another override vote in Groton?
So, from the school's perspective, what we're gonna do on Friday morning is we're gonna recertify our budget, like our overall budget at the same level. We're gonna also I was listening to the meeting on the way here, and so what Jason was describing about with the increased money that we expect to get from Chapter 70, we have the ability to lower both assessments. So we'll recertify the original number for the budget, but lower the two assessments. Then to decide what they do with that. My understanding is that it's up to the select board to decide whether they call a special town meeting and fund that through their municipal or free cash, or call for another special election. That would be something that the schools could really weigh in on. So I don't know what they will do. I think our only objective is to recertify the budget and to lower the assessments.
So are you recertifying it at the rate that Ron certified it?
No.
without
Just
the
a chapter
override.
70 change.
With
Just a
it's-
chapter 70 change.
So our operating budget will
Stay
stay
the
the same.
same.
In other words, at this point in time, we're not making any reductions.
Okay.
But we're also gonna lower the assessment. So Groton originally voted on an override amount of 673,000. The new number would be 544,000.
Okay,
If they go that route, or they take that out of free cash or.
Simply know, do they have the free cash?
They don't?
They have free cash, but they don't use it for operating.
How much is in there for, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Lacey, what's Groton Dunstable's, E&D number?
I don't know because it will depend on what increased money we get from the state. And, so at this point, as Jason kind of mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, our original budget was based on the governor, or our budget numbers were based on the governor's budget. The House has passed their budget with that increased, per pupil, increase of 150. The state is or the Senate is including that 150 as well, but I don't think they've officially voted on it yet. Everybody seems to believe that they will pass it, and then it will go to the governor, and assuming she doesn't veto it, then we would get that 150 per student. But it's not a guarantee at this point.
Right.
But there's also some other, like we may get additional, transportation reimbursement, increased circuit breaker reimbursement, so that would roll into E&D. So at this point, I don't know what that would be looking like.
What was the previous chapter 70 number?
$75. So it yields an increase overall of like 167,000 or something like that, which would be shared proportionally between the towns to lower the assessments.
Really, we're just in kind of a wait and see
Yeah.
time, which is, good. Glad we're having this meeting and we're not looking to butcher our budget. Thank you, Lacey. But, we should hold tight until we know more.
Yeah,
but isn't it nice to actually have a discussion about what to do with our extra money?
It is,
It's
I mean, to
a
me,
different feeling, but.
it is.
to me, like, I think the most important thing is I think we've been able to really, or we've tried to at least, and I think in a lot of ways effectively have established a level of trust and credibility with the community. I don't want to do anything that's
Right.
going to jeopardize that.
Right.
And so I think transparency is another big thing we've really strived to be. And I think transparent with decisions like this is obviously important. So I think if we are to consider something like this, and if we're in a position that, Groton doesn't pass their override again, and we're in a position to think about this more, it should be done definitely at town meeting for sure, I think. And,
I think that's fair.
and yeah, just let the public really understand why, what we're doing and all that, so yeah.
Last time they asked twice was 2017, and it failed both times.
Right hand, Matt, what was that?
So fiscal year 2017, they went back and asked for an override again, after the first one failed, and it failed by a larger margin.
Oh, yeah, there's some risk. I mean,
Yeah.
people don't.
I mean, the only issue you got with this override that they have is they had 2 overrides on the ballot. And Mass DOR DLS says historically, both will fail. They've got enough data that they say when a town does that, both are gonna crash and burn. And they advise against that. And the DOR sat here, told us that, because we were doing that at one point in time. And here we are with this thing, and it's, the school's lost by, I think, 30 votes. The other one lost by several hundred
Got
votes.
trounced.
Yeah, the fire department was, got smashed, but historically, they shouldn't have had 2 overrides. But you know what? That's their business and that's their problems. But that guidance from the state is there, and they give you all the data, says, this is why you don't want to do that. And what they do, they often do it, and it fails.
Yeah, when I said 2 overrides, I meant they had a vote on 5/17/2016 and failed. They went back a month later and asked again for a reduced amount, and it failed again.
What was the money being used for? Does it say in there,
It was
Matt?
for the school.
Oh, it's for the school?
Yeah, it was 1,899,000 was the first time, and then the second time with 812,000, it filled both,
What year was that in?
2017.
17.
They haven't passed a school override since fiscal year 2007.
2007? That's ominous.
Sorry, fiscal year 2004 was the last time they passed and won an override for schools.
Other than the Florence Roach issue.
That was
Yeah,
the
that's a
debt
debt
exclusion, that was.
It's a debt
the
exclusion.
exclusion.
Yeah, yeah. Ron?
The only two things that have changed is one, the amount is being reduced slightly. And now it's known that Dunstable passed theirs.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know if those two things factor into anybody's decision-making, but
You know,
who
the
knows?
difference between like 680 and 540 on your day-to-day budget.
Yeah.
Budget does.
Yeah.
It's pennies. So like it's a tough, I mean, if it were like a bit more substantial, and it's more or less they're just getting lucky that the assessment's going down because.
Assuming the
chapter
governor
seven-
signs it.
Right, I mean, that's,
But even if there's nobody goes, the part that sucks about this is it's great they're getting the additional chapter 7 money, and that should be double the 150, it should be $300. But the fact of the matter is that like what that looks like, and even will look like to even our voters that hear about this, is they needed 673 and they got. And what they asked it for 673 and what they really need 550, 544 or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's gonna look like-
Explain that
right.
very, very clearly.
It's gonna look like that, we
Yeah.
wanted this.
That really is unfair because
It is for
the
sure.
budgets were crafted based on the information
Right.
that was available at the
Yeah.
time. This is new information that we have.
But that-
Yeah, but I understand what
the
you're saying.
optics of it.
Right,
The optics
exactly.
back,
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, I mean, I wish them all the best. I mean,
Yeah.
all we can do is sort of sit and wait until.
Another month, June 28th.
So the only thing with Groton gifting last year,
Yeah.
I know from enough of the meetings that we've been together, it wasn't very popular.
Correct.
Does Mark have any other pitfalls that came out of that? Might be something to see if he said like, hey, this screwed us up here, or, this changed the perspective. Did the gift cause the override to get shut down?
There was a lot of, we went to that TRICOM meeting together, there was a lot.
It was
There was a lot of heavy discussion.
It was heavily debated, for
Yeah.
sure. Other than that, I don't know of any other complications or impacts. One of the emails that he sent out after the override vote, he went through kind of a variety of options for the town of Groton. And he did mention that an option for Dunstable was to provide a gift like Groton did. And to be fair, he
Laid it all out
named
there.
every option there are, so he wasn't singling us out at
No,
all.
it
was
was
just-
That's his job. I
It was just
understand.
outlining what the possibilities were, kind of, similar to what we're doing, just from our perspective instead, so.
But I want to be clear that a year ago, you didn't advertise for them to do that.
Oh, no,
No.
No, we didn't seek them out.
No,
No, no,
I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
That's all.
No.
No, but we were
Graciously
little Timmy
appreciative.
going up there and said, this is all we can afford. Is this enough?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Will
Yeah.
you take some things?
That's right. Excuse me.
I mean, it was nice of them for the very first time since I remember that they actually asked us what we could afford.
And listened.
And listened, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And I'll tell you, when they were gonna do that gift, I was very nervous about it. For obvious reasons. I mean, I was worried that we were gonna have to come up with that money the next year.
Here
This
we
has a
are.
precedence.
Well, and then it's to scratch your back.
Yeah, and then,
Here we are.
But again, it's like, we'll scratch your back if we have extra money without an override. Like, we don't, you don't tax one town because the other town, I don't know, it could go either way.
But if it fails again, if it fails again and they're like, well, now we have to crush the school budget more, then we're right back to the same issue for our parents in town.
But then we're just delaying the inevitable another year.
That's gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah.
That's been the.
But, to me, the town of Groton, for this year, the gift was was a favor for the town of Dunstable and the school district. They didn't have to do that. It was a hotly debated issue that they could have decided to avoid, but they thought it was best, and it did help the school district to avoid additional layoffs that they would have had to make to pay for the unemployment that they were going to have to pay for the other layoffs they were making. So,
And it was voted at town meeting.
and it was voted at town meeting. So, and it really helped us get through this year in a difficult fiscal year. So,
Because if you tell me it goes to the nurse between the middle school and the one nurse that's racing between two schools, I'd be like, that's an easy issue for me to say, yeah, here's your gift.
yeah.
But I know it's not as simple as that.
Right.
So-
Right. Yeah, I think it's also a result of, like, we've really been able to establish a very productive working relationship with everybody, I think, involved in this. And I think it's just a product of everybody better understanding where everybody's coming from and the situations we're all dealing with. So anyway, do you want to go through super town meeting at all, or do we want to leave that
I
for,
think we should wait.
in the case it happens?
Yeah, I'd let
Okay.
that wait. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, let them fail the vote on the
Okay.
28th.
So you have kind of a breakdown real quick, take a look. If you have questions, feel free to just give me a call or shoot me an email.
I'm assuming the 28th is on purpose to get done prior to July 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they won't have a budget.
Right.
I don't know how they're gonna get to the 28th without a budget, the district.
And it's a little bit of play. I mean, it could be, because if Monday is the 30th, right? So you just,
If the override fails again, I mean, a 1/12 budget is probably what they're looking at, the regional school district.
But you can only have a 1/12 budget for so many months, right?
Yes.
And so they'd be operating with a 1/12 budget, and
3
then,
months.
I don't know, what's the rest of it, Tuesday?
It's just 3 months.
I think
Wow.
it's 3.
I thought it was 6.
Even with the regional school districts, I thought it was different,
What is?
the 112.
No, it's 1/12. It's only good for you, only
Yeah.
run that for so many months.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is, I think it's 6 months.
we're,
Three.
I forget what it is.
I don't know that it was 3, because you got some timing, posting and election time I think it's 6, but I could be wrong, Matt.
I don't know.
Because you could be doing a town meeting every month.
Yeah.
Until you pass it. That's essentially what North Middlesex did. They just ran meetings until they got it through.
That's one way to go.
You just keep decreasing the number and keep
Yeah.
recalculating the budget until you get it to fly, so.
I looked at history, Townsend one time went 8 times for
Yep.
override.
Oh, yeah.
So that, 8 times
Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds
in 1 year.
Okay, I have a motion, folks. I move to cancel the special town election on June 10th and direct the town clerk not to print the ballots.
Second.
Any discussion? Pretty obvious why that doesn't need to happen. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Very good. Anything else?
Can I want to say thank you to Jason for all his hard work. This was, you and Sue did some great work with the outreach. Anyone that didn't know that there was an election going on, I think, needs to kind of answer to themselves.
It's off grid.
I think not only was the information in front of most people if they wanted it, it was also fully available on the website if they wanted to find it. There was no doubt that there was an election going on, and it was definitely on social media. And I just wanted to say thank you. I texted you several times the last few weeks, and you were always, no matter what time it was, you answered. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
And I just thank you for the hard work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My pleasure.
Okay, Bob,
we
thank
do-
you for the hard
thank
work too.
everybody.
I
Yeah.
mean, this is always a very stressful time of year.
We don't send out cards for elections, we just do it for town meeting, right? But everyone
Yeah,
got a
that's part of
card.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so everyone got a card, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mailer that explained it.
Well, I don't know how someone could not know there's a town election. They're living in a vacuum,
You should have sent them a sympathy card. That's
probably.
Of the election.
Get their address, I'll send them. I'll even sign the damn thing.
But Sue,
The card that goes,
Yeah.
that goes out for the town meeting also has all the election information on it.
It does.
So they do get that sent out.
And it's on our website.
Mhm.
And the
And they'll
information
go and
goes
sit
out
in your
of
kitchen and
the
have a
people
meeting
who
with
are up
you.
and pulling papers.
We'll find who it is, we'll go visit them, we'll get a bus, we'll drive around, we'll go in their
Go door to
houses.
door, old school.
Absolutely.
I would say, especially just because we're on camera, that anyone that was a no, but has a real financial constraint, I know there is some programs out there that, you know, maybe we can advertise those or advocate for those, right? Because we have a tax relief program for veterans, the HERO and things like that. So those folks that really it is a constraint on their budget and their family or whatever it might be, you know, say, hey, wait, we hear you. We know that 340 or so people said, I don't want to do this or I can't afford it. So do want to be respectful of those folks that really, $600 could get them, you know, down the curb, and it might cancel a vacation for them or whatever. You know?
Yeah, there is an option on our tax bills to donate amount to that fund.
Right. So, I mean,
So if somebody does have issues with the amount, what do they do? Do they go to town hall and talk to somebody, or how does that work?
yep, it depends, you know, if you're like a protected class or if you're a veteran, there's some different options. Really, it's probably going to Jason or Sue and sort of just being like, you know, humbly say, hey, I can't afford that hit. Like, what are my options? And then I think there's some resources out there for affordability, but I can't promise that until someone comes before us and says, I'm John Smith. I just can't do $500. You know, what can you do for me?
The tax aid committee will be in front of you guys in your next meeting. So they've been working for the last few months to put together an application, put together requirements, income requirements, and they're wrapping that work up. So we should be able to go out with that as well. And that's what the donation on your tax bill goes into that tax aid fund. So they should have some information early June, I think, to share with the public.
Yeah, just because that kind of closed the loop, because again, $600 on the average tax bill is a lot to many families, so don't want to lose sight of that, so.
Our next meeting is the 4th. Is that our regular, so that'd be 2 weeks from?
Yes,
That's a Wednesday.
it's the
Yeah,
Tuesday,
third.
3rd?
3rd.
Okay.
3rd and 10th, right?
6 o'clock, we're sticking with 6
6 is better,
for you?
Okay, which,
Okay,
the 3rd or the 4th is the opening of Florence, the new Florence Road, the official.
When's it opening?
The official opening, I think, is like the 3rd or the 4th.
Did we get invited?
I did.
I didn't.
I'm on the
Are they gonna have beer
the
and
building
wine?
committee, so.
You're on the building committee for them?
Remember way back when this started?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it took forever.
yeah. Was it gonna be a big deal?
It was gonna, no big deal, just go once a month and.
Yeah, it didn't, wasn't bad.
It was not bad. Oh, you're in construction? Oh, you're gonna stay on this to the very end.
We have a fund transfer.
What's that?
We have a fund transfer.
We do?
Yeah, Sue's going to get it.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
all right, well,
Well, you can adjourn.
we can adjourn.
Motion
It's
to
fine.
adjourn.
No, don't do it.
Second.
Aye.
All's in favor, aye.
Because we have year-end transfers we're gonna bring to you,
Right.
and we're gonna package them. We're gonna package
So it doesn't.
And then we'll.
them. We're gonna package them all together, the year-end transfers.
This is,
Is that Gene?
no, this is for us. No?
This thing is still hot, so.
Yeah, well, we can leave.
I
Thank you all.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I guess I would entertain a motion to adjourn.